Welcome to Education Matters. It's WHRV's continuing discussion with area educators about the issues facing today's classroom teachers. I'm Doug Boynton, and today our in-studio guest is Dr. Herbert Monroe, the newly appointed superintendent of the Surry Public Schools. Dr. Monroe has been at the district's helm since October 7th. We'll talk about the division's challenges, his vision for the district, the unique needs of teachers and students in a rural district in the Commonwealth, and the similarities their counterparts might have with large urban schools. We'll talk about how the district addresses chronic absenteeism, the mental health of teachers and students, and other issues impacting education today. It's Education Matters. It's next after this news break from NPR and WHRO News. Good afternoon and welcome to Education Matters. I'm Doug Boynton, and we often look at new teachers' challenges and what they go through early in their career, getting a proper foothold in the classroom. Today's guest, Dr. Herbert Monroe, he's facing, the same kind of challenge. He's been on the job since October 7th to lead the Surry County Schools. We're taking your calls, by the way, today at 440-2665 or at 1-800-940-2240. Dr. Monroe, welcome. Congratulations on the new gig.
Doug, thank you so much. And let me just tell you, it's an honor to be here today with you and WHRO. I really feel like it's a plum-pleasing pleasure, as I like to tell my students every day when I see them, with pride and enthusiasm. So again, thank you so much for having me here today.
I knew I wanted to get into this business when I was very young, and I used to play radio when I was a kid. When did you know you wanted to be an educator?
Well, you know what's crazy? Both of my parents were principals. And they said, Herbie, whatever you do, do not go into education, right? But like all great kids, we listen to our parents. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't even decide to go into education because I was that, kid with an IEP. I was a severe stutterer. You may not know now, but, I'm working on my onsets and making sure I'm speaking as fluently as I can. But I was intimidated to go into education, even though both of my parents were leaders in the community. But it wasn't until my college wrestling coach at Lock Haven University said, Herb, you have this way with kids and people. You seem to get kids excited about learning and you bring people together. He said, you know what? I think you need to be a teacher. And I really valued my college wrestling coach. And he said, at least you'll be guaranteed a job. So I went into education. I taught for 10 years in Western Pennsylvania as a third grade teacher and high school wrestling coach. Then I moved on to be a middle school science and reading teacher and a high school and middle school wrestling coach.
What did you learn in those jobs?
Well, you know what I learned? I learned grit, dedication, learning how to understand that it's always too soon to quit. The one thing I had in my classroom as a third grade teacher is I always said, never say can't, say not yet, but soon with practice. And that's something that I really try to instill not only in my students, but all the people that I come in contact with, because, a lot of times I think people are successful in their job or they land a job, not based on what they can do, but based on someone seeing something great within them and helping them to get there.
At what point did you kind of move away from the classroom and into management?
Well, let me tell you, this is a true story. I relocated to Virginia. My dad unfortunately died at age 56 of a heart attack while he was principal at Laburnum Elementary School. And I'm 56 this year, so it's kind of exciting because I've dedicated this year to my father. And I'll be 57 in November, so I think I'm going to outlive him. And I know he's looking down on me now, but I was teaching at Mount Vernon Alternative School in Henrico, and that was the school with what I call the most at promise students, kids that basically got kicked out of their comprehensive school. And I was teaching civics, 8th grade civics, and at the time that was an SOL, still is. And after my second year, I had like the 10th highest scores in Henrico County. My second year, I had the second highest scores in the county. And Dr. Edwards, the superintendent at the time, said, Herbie, if your dad was still living, he would tell you to quit coaching and become a principal. Because if you can have this kind of effect on our most at promise kids, you would have a profound effect on an entire school. So I called my mom and said, Mom, Dr. Edwards told me if Dad was living, I should quit coaching and go into administration. What should I do? My mom said, you do whatever Dr. Edwards tells you to do. And Mark Edwards is known for being the superintendent that started the 1-to-1 in the Commonwealth back in 2000. But he's still a mentor for me today. And I will tell you, 2 years later, I got my master's in supervision and leadership from VCU.
Cool. We got a call. Let's go to Joe from Yorktown. Hi, Joe. You're on the air.
Thank you for taking my call. I'd like to know how this new superintendent from such a rural school division is working to implement the governor's initiative for evidence-based strategies. I'm concerned that it's going to cost a tremendous amount of money, manpower, training for teachers, and I'm just interested in seeing and hearing how he plans on implementing that new mandate.
Well, thank you for the question. One thing that we're doing is we're working with our partnerships. We partner with CERN right now out of William and Mary. That's one of the things we do for math. We have new math standards, and being such a small division, we don't really have specialists like a math specialist. So we really work with our building leaders, and we partner with universities, like I said, CERN in math. To provide professional development and to partner with us. We also partner with other universities, and we have a program called TTAC where we work with our special education teachers as well as our paraprofessionals to provide training. We also partner and use resources from the Virginia Department of Education and use best practices there as well. And what that has done for us, especially with our Virginia Literacy Act, which we're fully implemented with our literacy plan, we're able to provide what we call specialized instruction for our students with disabilities. We just had a professional development day on the 11th of October, division-wide, where we talked about student engagement. We looked at specialized instruction as well, and we looked at hands-on learning. And one of the things that we are finding is that we inspect what we expect. So a lot of times we make sure that our division leaders receive training first so that we can then train the trainer to make sure that our teachers are implementing with fidelity. So our biggest strategy right now in a strong division is to make sure that we are capitalizing on the colleges and universities as well as the VDOE resources so that we can make sure our teachers implement that in the classroom.
VDOE, are they help or hindrance?
They're a help. They're a help. And just like anything, my mom used to say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So, by partnering and, being really in this game, it's my 22nd year in Virginia. I am proactive in reaching out to the Virginia Department of Education, not only to ask questions, but also to take advantage of the plethora of resources that they do have. Because a lot of times, if you want to implement with fidelity, you have to know the target. And the VDOE right now is driving the targets. Whether or not they're shifting or not, you still need to follow the target. And that way, when you're aligned with what the expectations are, then it helps you to implement with fidelity.
Thanks for the call, Joe. Getting back to your history, you have how many kids?
I have 4 daughters, 1 grandson, and 1 granddaughter on the way.
Have you told them not to get involved in education?
Well, what's really interesting? I got a kind of a 50% success rate right now. My oldest daughter, she's in Atlanta. She's like a promotional events planner, but my next oldest daughter is actually a teacher in Atlanta, and she's doing very well. In her 3rd year now, she's studying to move into ITRT, Instructional Technology Resource Teacher. But she's received several accolades in Atlanta as a successful teacher. I'm proud of her. My next oldest daughter, Jamie, is a paraprofessional in preschool in Henrico County Public Schools at Radcliffe, where my dad was once principal.
Wow.
And then my youngest baby girl, she is a captain right across the border here at Christopher Newport, and she's majoring in physical therapy, and she's a junior right now.
Outstanding. You've been on the ground for a couple of weeks, and
Yes.
You're still getting used to everything, meeting the people, or what has been called management by walking around?
Yes, indeed, Doug. It's been really exciting. The one thing that I can say coming from Caroline County Public Schools, which is a small rural school division, is I am real big on knowing people by name. I'm excited because I've been in every classroom. I have already started what I'm calling a look, listen, and learn tour. I sent out a major survey last week to all parents, the community, students, staff, all employees, and I asked that everybody really provide honest and true feedback. And that survey closes next Wednesday, November 6th. But it's really been great connecting with the students. Students call me by name now. We had a homecoming reunion, I'm going to call it, because we had folks come back to Surry from as far as New York and California, and I actually challenged the kids to a dance competition. So, our school board said that it went viral, and they think that I won, but really it's about engaging kids. Education is something that should be fun. It is exciting. I believe all students want to learn. And in Surry County, we're really doing some great things in reference to teaching and learning. And I'm really excited to help, Surry move onward and upward.
Are you starting to develop a vision for how you hope things will work out?
Yes. Part of that vision really will be based on what I'm going to call the community's vision. And that's why the Look, Listen, and Learn tour is so excited. But the vision really is starting right now in my first year is what I call the 3 C's. It's connection, collaboration, and communication. I believe that teamwork makes the dream work. And I believe that if we connect and we really get to know what our needs are through needs assessments and letting things be data driven, if we collaborate and work as a team to create action items so that we can move the division forward, both whether it's, from capital improvement to academics, and we continue to, like I say, collaborate and communicate effectively, I think there's no stopping us. And I think we can be the exemplar school division in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Some of the things that have come down from the governor and the Virginia Board of Education, the cell phone ban, I could almost hear teachers cheering that one.
Yes, I will agree. But the one thing that I will say is I have not seen thus far, knock on wood, that we have even had a cell phone issue in Caroline since I've been there. And I'm very visible. As you know, you
Right.
see I have my sneakers on.
Oh, yeah.
I wear my sneakers frequently because I believe in being where the work happens. But our students are really very compliant. And I think it has a lot to do with we have a lot of longevity and a legacy of learning in Surry County Public Schools. And what I mean by that is this. There are a lot of teachers there, like Ms. King, for example. She's been there for 47 years, and she's still very highly effective. There are teachers that are from Surry, and so therefore they may be teaching their nieces, nephews, grandkids, cousins. So, if you're not going to do right in my class, I know who to call when you get home.
Well, that's because what we haven't touched on, and we will a little later on, is it's relatively speaking, a pretty tight-knit, small set of students, right?
It is. And you know what? One of the things that I really have observed that I think is powerful is the leadership from central office down to the classroom teacher, including our front office staff, custodian, food service, our bus drivers. We connect and correct. Let me repeat that for the community. We connect and correct before we catch and punish. And kids these days really respond to that. If you treat a child with respect, if you look for the good in them, if you talk about the things that they have done well, and then you follow it up with a correction or with a directive, students are more inclined to do it respectfully. And that's something that I have seen in Surry that has been amazing. So our kids are very, very compliant.
The teachers I learned the most from when I was in school, I always described them as tough but fair.
There you go. And what I would add to that is our students are firm and our teachers are firm, but they're firm, fair, consistent, and honest. So when you put those 4 things together, again, when you have to, as I say, reprimand or correct a student, 9 times out of 10, the parents are also on your side.
One of the things I'm remembering my high school days. I had an English teacher who you'd write a 3-page paper for her, and you'd turn it in, and you'd get an A, and she would write in red ink up at the top alongside your A, now rewrite it and make it better.
Well, you know what? That's how I operate.
Right.
That's how we operate. Let me tell you, the first day that I was on the job, I actually went to all classrooms. But
Right.
I went into the high school, and I know the kids were probably like, well, who is this little short guy coming in here with all this energy, right? But I had a roll of tape in my pocket because I knew that the high school was already fully accredited. I knew that the middle school was fully accredited as well as the elementary school. But I had a roll of tape, and I asked one of the young men in one of the English classes, I said, I need you to do me a favor. I said, I have a piece of tape right here. I want you to jump as high as you can and put this piece of tape on the wall. And he jumped up, put it up there. The kids were cheering and everything was really cool. Then you know what I did? I ripped off another piece and I said, now I want you to jump high again and put this piece of tape above that one. And the principal, Coach Pope, actually filmed that. And the student did it. And the student and I connected, the students and I connected. But the moral to the story is no matter how good we are now, we can always be better. And that was a powerful message, not only for the students, not only for the teacher, but for me. Because to be honest with you, a lot of places that I've been, I've kind of been the person to come in and try to turn schools around or try to get schools that weren't accredited. But now coming into a district where all the schools are accredited, again, we want to make sure that we're moving now to what's called distinguished schools. You know, our goal in Surry County is not only to be fully accredited, but the new system is on track, off track, needs improvement. We want to make sure all three of our schools are distinguished, and that is the highest mark you can get in the state of Virginia.
We'll get to that. And the high school recently got that, right?
Well, the high school just received a big award, and I would love to go into the details on what it is.
We'll get to that in a minute. Again, we're taking your calls. It's Education Matters. Our guest today, Dr. Herbert Monroe. He's the new superintendent of the Surry County Schools. The numbers, Education Matters, 440-2665 or 800-940-2240. And we will be right back. Welcome back to Education Matters. I'm Doug Boynton. We are talking with Dr. Herbert Monroe, the brand new superintendent of Surry County Schools. About the district, you said, we were talking during the break, you said the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school are all within basically shouting distance of each other, right?
Right. You know, it's so cool. If I stand in the middle of the street in the intersection, I do a 360, I can see all three schools.
So is there much interaction if you're in elementary school as you begin to get toward middle school age? Is there any crossover there?
Well, the one thing I think that's really powerful that I'm glad you brought that up is we are all Cougars. We have, our junior Cougars, our baby Cougars, if you will, our Cubs, if you will. At the elementary, we have our junior Cougars at the middle school. We have our mighty Cougars at the high school. So first of all, we're all Cougars. So, we all have the same mascot. The other thing is when we have a pep rally, the elementary kids come to the high school for the pep rally. And what is so cool is the high school kids, they tunnel up and they usher and cheer the elementary kids as they come in and sit down. Then our middle school kids come into the gym, and then our high school kids come in the gym. And we really just kind of show up and show out all together as one unified school division.
Now, you came from Caroline,
I did.
A bigger district.
Yes.
Did they have that kind of togetherness at Caroline?
We did. We had the togetherness. As we say, we had the teamwork makes the dream work. But I think it's something special when you have what I call vertical connection. And what I see in Surry is, we use the term small but mighty, but I understand what that means now. Because we're small, we're able to do some very, very special and unique things. I mean, those elementary kids looking up to the high school students was amazing. The high school students showing a sense of care, pride, and kind of mentorship for our elementary and middle school students is something that's really powerful. And the fact that we're all Cougars really makes us one united Cougar nation. So it's really exciting. We also see the same thing when we talk about academics. We talk about chronic absenteeism. When we meet as a leadership team, the elementary principal, assistant principal, middle, and high, we're all in the same room with division leadership. When we do our learning walks, it is so powerful. We did a learning walk at the elementary school to look at our Virginia Literacy Act implementation. Our middle and high school principal were there. Our assistant principals at the middle and high school were there. Our technology folks was there, as well as the assistant superintendent of operations, as well as Dr. Grimm, who oversees data and compliance. So again, when you have all systems actually looking at instruction, then it only helps to drive best practice and accountability for instruction, because instruction can happen on the bus, in the cafeteria, in the hallway, as well as the classroom.
Let's talk about the flip side. Are there challenges to having a small district?
There are a lot of challenges. I will be honest with you. The one challenge is that the work is the work. Whether you're a Virginia Beach, Newport News, Carolina, or Surry, the state still requires the same thing from everyone. So what you find in a smaller division is you might find one or two folks that wear many hats. For example, our director of special education is also our director of federal programs. Now, I will tell you, coming out of ESSER and looking at budget season.
ESSER.
Okay.
Describe ESSER for us.
Well, it was a lot of state grants.
Right.
You know, after we came through COVID, the state provided thousands, millions of dollars really throughout the Commonwealth for us to recover. And there was a very, what I would say, a strict management of funds for whatever programs that you were putting in place to make sure that we recovered learning loss. And a lot of that came through federal funding, state funding as well. But again, that person that was the director of federal programs already had a job.
Right.
When ESSER came on, that job basically tripled. And then for our person in Surry, they do all of that. Plus, they're director of special education. So that comes with a lot of federal and state mandates as well, and a lot of things that you have to make sure that you're in compliance with mandates that, again, are audited every year. So, you know, for example, other divisions may have departments of folks. We have departments of one. But again, we still, you know, have to submit the same documents. We have to follow the same requirements, and we have to meet the same standards.
Recovery from the pandemic, and we kind of touched on that briefly. Is your district, have they come through that yet?
Well, I would say yes, in reference to academic growth, improvement in chronic absenteeism, closing achievement gaps among schools. But I think the area where we still is an area of opportunity is, I would say, social and emotional wellness of students and families. I know that is something that has continued to be a challenge, not only in Surry, but I think throughout the Commonwealth and nation. So, you know, a lot of things that we do, people talk about a sense of belonging, and I want to define that for the community. A sense of belonging really in Surry County means 5 things. One, we have created a community where students are not only physically safe, and we have some capital improvement things that we've done to make sure our doors are secure, our glasses are shielded properly, but also our students are socially and emotionally safe. And that means that we are taking care of their basic needs to make sure our students are properly sheltered, make sure, you know, our students are fed, and make sure our students come to school ready to learn. But also we do a lot of work on making sure that our families are valued and they feel welcomed in our schools. We also make sure that students are empowered, meaning giving students the right amount of voice and choice. You know, for example, the surveys I put out, I made it a mandate. I asked all high school kids to complete that survey. I even went and talked to all of our middle school, or talking to our middle school students. What do we need here? Also, we want to make sure that our kids are learning. We have a promise that our kids will be 3E ready. That means upon on-time graduation, all of our kids will either be enrolled in a 2 or 4 year university, they'll be enlisted in one of our armed services, or they'll be employed. And I'm excited to say we have kids that are E squared and E cubed already. And even in Surry, we have students that take upward of like 30 hours of college credit with Brightpoint. And we have students that can graduate with an associate's degree in high school. So for a small school division, we have a lot of positive things happening.
Title I, we throw that phrase, that definition around a lot. What is a Title I school?
Well, we are actually monitored. Our elementary school is not a Title I school, but normally the criteria for a Title I school is when you have over 50% of your student population on free or reduced lunch right now. I will tell you that our elementary school is what we call monitored, meaning that we're not fully a Title I school. However, we do receive title funding. We receive Title I, II, III, IV. There's different titles for different funding. Like, for example, Title II is professional development, for example. So we do receive funding, and we use that money for some of our teacher pathways to provide training for teachers. We're looking at pathways now where we're partnering and looking to partner with colleges and universities for teacher licensure, for example. So, whether you're a coach or a behavior person, or whether you're a teacher assistant, paraprofessional, we're looking for ways to put you on a pathway towards teacher licensure if you're interested.
How you doing with retention, teacher retention?
Well, in Surry, we're actually doing really well with teacher retention. In our division, I know our high school is fully staffed. We just have our middle school just recently fully staffed with hiring a math teacher just last month. And really, we only have 7, as we say, long-term subs in our division right now. When people come to Surry, what I've learned is once they're there, they feel good about being in Surry. One, we have very strong leadership. We have great programs. We have opportunity for growth for our teachers. And actually, our salary is pretty commensurate with our neighboring school divisions. So, when you put all of those variables in place, it really creates a great place, not only to work, but also a safe and great place for parents to educate their children.
I want to talk about something else in just a moment, but I want to mention that we are open for your calls at 757-440-2665 or 800-940-2240. Chronic absenteeism went up as we recovered from the pandemic. Are you back to normal levels now?
Well, I just want to stand up and cheer and do a backflip for our most recent data here. I will tell you right now that the chronic absenteeism at Surry Elementary School went down by 3%. So as the state would see it, we're actually green. Luther Porter Jackson Middle School, they are just crushing chronic absenteeism. Their chronic absenteeism is 4%.
Oh, wow.
Do you know they're one of the top schools in the state for chronic absenteeism at actually just 4%. And Surry High School had one of the biggest increases as far as success in this area. They went from 18% to 8%.
Wow.
So right now, Surry High School is sitting at 8%. But one thing that I will tell you is we have very strategic programs around the chronic absenteeism. I call him Coach Pope because he is a coach. He's the principal at the high school. But every morning he puts out an email, and the threshold is 7 days. So right now, any student that has missed more than 7 days has missed or is teetering on missing more than 10% of their school year. At Surry, you're not allowed to do anything if you are at that threshold. And what I mean by that is there's a list, and those students are connected with an adult. And they have to report to attendance recovery before they go to football practice, before they go to basketball practice, before they report to any extracurricular activity, whether it's as a spectator or as a participant. So again, we are connecting and correcting instead of catching and punishing. And it's creating a situation where we're all turning to each other and not on each other to be successful, not only in school, but also in life.
The adult you describe, is that like the old-fashioned truant officer?
No, Coach Pope is actually the principal at the high school. His name is James Pope. He does a phenomenal job. And, being new on the job, it was great to see him because I didn't know if he was a teacher. I didn't know if he was a coach or if he was the principal. And to me, that's a great thing. When you can engage and connect with your teachers and your staff and your community, and you don't put yourself above anybody else, but you work hip to hip with folks and you lift everybody up, I tell you what, it creates a community where people can be successful.
We talked high school. Tell me about the honor the high school received this year.
Oh, wow. Well, just last week, our high school was honored by the Virginia Department of Education as the highest achievement exemplar award. Let me tell you, only 92 schools in Virginia received this award. And Surry High School is one of 26 high schools to achieve this award. And what this award is all about is it's about academic excellence where all of your groups, Black students, white students, students with disabilities, English as a second language students, your students that might be economically disadvantaged, all exceeded the state benchmarks for math, for reading, for writing, and for science. And also where you have a school division where the gap between each of those student groups is less than 10%. I will tell you that our gaps are less than 5%. So it's exciting to see and to know that our students with disabilities are performing just as well as our general education students. And that, again, speaks to the professional development, the hard and dedicated work of our teachers and the partnerships we have with parents.
When kids are excited about coming to school, chronic absenteeism would drop too, would it not?
It would. It would. And kids are excited. I know we're excited because we have a JV football game today at our middle school, at LPJ Middle School. Our girls basketball team is playing for the middle school championship, if you will. So the community will come out for that. And I will tell you, we had the most amazing homecoming that I've ever experienced in my 32 years of education in Surry. We actually closed school for homecoming, half a day for homecoming, and we had Virginia State's University Marching Band in our parade.
They're good.
Oh, they're amazing. No, they're real good.
Yeah.
And, came down and celebrated with us. We had a parade through Surry County. And then in our park, right beside the government building there, we had like a cookout with all the community folks with food stands, had a live band. And it was just so great to see the entire community come out and celebrate the greatness of not only Surry County Public Schools, but just Surry County, as a great place to live and a great place to learn.
I'm not sure you get that kind of community in larger districts.
Well, I don't know, but I will tell you, it almost felt like going back in time. I remember we used to go to South Carolina for family reunions, and my mom grew up in Hampton, and my grandmother kind of was that big house on the corner where all the neighbors would come and play games. And back then, before cornhole, we played horseshoes and croquet, and that's what it reminded me of. I felt like I had gone back in time to a very special place where community was really what everything was about. So again, Surry is just an amazing place. We're
going to take another break. Our guest is Dr. Herbert Monroe. He's the new superintendent of the Surry County Public Schools. Our phone number is 440-2665. That's in the 757 area code, or 800-940-2240. And we will be right back. And we're back. It's Education Matters from WHRV. Our guest today is Dr. Herbert Monroe, the new superintendent of the Surry County Schools. And you can join the conversation at 757-440-2665 or 800-940-2240. The scores came out from SOLs, the standards of learning. That's the required stuff that teachers give every year. My son had a different name for that acronym, but you guys did very well. You're like in the top 20%.
We are just excited to see the celebrations and the ongoing work that has continued. Like I said, all of our schools are fully accredited. If you look at kind of the way the state tiers you're either green and reading or you're red or you're yellow, depending on where you fall. And then also you get a ranking of, green, yellow, red for your student groups that I mentioned earlier. And we are in the green for math, for reading, for science, for chronic absenteeism right now. But what I'm excited about is as we look at how the state is changing our accreditability framework. We're looking at a new ranking now of needs, intensive support, off track, on track, and distinguished. So right now, we've all set the goal that we not only want to make sure that our schools are on track, but we want to make sure that our schools are distinguished. So all of our principals are charged with setting what we call continuous school improvement plans. We look at those plans weekly. We have a weekly instructional leadership team meeting where we all come together, look at our plans, look at our data, and we make sure that we are putting things in place so that we meet or exceed what our goals are. I had mentioned before we had a great Professional Learning Day on October 11th. We also focus on something called PLCs, Professional Learning Communities, and that's where different grade level teams come together, content teams come together, and we look at students and we look at their data. We look at alignment of instruction to the VDOE framework for whatever courses that we have, and we make sure that instruction is aligned. We make sure assessments are aligned, and we make sure that our lessons provide rigor and engagement so that we can really not only meet students where they are, but take them to the next level.
So if I'm hearing you, it's like these are the standards. We're gonna execute them, and then we're gonna measure progress and make course corrections, and then move forward again.
Right. And then what we do is we look at students as students. We look at every single student. And for our students that may be underperforming, we have a plethora of interventions in which we provide to our students and make sure they have the assistance that they need to close those learning gaps. And we also have enrichment. So, as we say, we want to make sure that we are raising the ceiling and the floor and moving all kids upward. I'm really excited because the way that the new accreditation system works, you get weighted points for students that score what we call pass advance. So we're actually creating a pass advance club. And again, for those students, 400 is the passing. But we're looking at setting goals and doing new initiatives around students that score 500 or higher, or even having a 600 club. So our building leaders are working on communication, events, pep rallies, things to motivate, educate, and inspire our students and our parents to understand that we want to raise the bar. So I'm excited to see what we will come up with so that our students are going for 6, as we would say, instead of just thinking 400 is good enough.
As you describe that, it sounds like that might be one of the strategies that would work better in a small district.
You know what? I'm excited about it because when I actually mentioned it, looking at where we were as far as accreditation and looking at the number of students that have had success historically, I was excited to see that our principals and our building leaders were excited about it. Sometimes when you try to raise the bar, or sometimes when you are meeting what is required, people exhale and think it's good enough. But I'm excited that the leadership in Surry County, they're like hungry. They're not satisfied. They're like, we're not done yet, Dr. Monroe. We can do this thing. And I made the joke. I said, well, if kids can memorize the lyrics to their favorite song or do the latest line dance, then they can definitely pass the test.
Maybe some of your staff should go to work for the State Board of Education.
Well, what I would say is we have a lot of highly qualified, dedicated teachers that are making a difference in Surry, and if they were to ever leave Surry, they will make a difference wherever they go.
What percentage of your staff were born and raised in Surry County?
Well,
just off the top of your head.
I don't have the hard data,
right.
but what I will tell you as I'm walking around and meeting and greeting folks, I bet over 50% of our employees are from Surry. I would push my chips to the middle of the table on that.
I want to talk about mental health for students and, frankly, for teachers, too. Students came, we talked briefly about the problems that the pandemic created, especially in social skills.
Right.
But is there were some of those ESSER funds, some of those recovery funds from the pandemic certainly went toward those kind of resources, right?
Right. And, we had to encumber and make sure all of those funds were spent by September
Right.
30th. But some of the things that we've been able to do in reference to maintaining some of what we learned. And, I know we kind of have what I would call a reset, recharge, refuel mentality where we really check on folks. And I know, like, for example, at our middle school, we are looking at our wellness. We have a water challenge. We have line dancing challenges. We have bicycles in the hallways. And I know that the principal, assistant principal ride bikes. And we have reset where, teachers can kind of tap in and tap out for one another when they need a break. We also have different things like we have a food share table and a cart where, again, we make sure our kids' basic needs are met. We have like a calming corner. Our school counseling department, they work together to make sure, when we see something about to happen, we actually intervene and really connect with students. And again, every student needs a champion. So our students are connected to a trusting adult in the building, to help them to kind of navigate when they may be having trouble and things of that nature. I know that all of our principals have an advisory committee. We do student incentives. We have a shout out board, both for students and adults. I know we have a little attendance thing that we're doing, little healthy attendance awards where the trophy kind of goes from school to school. But we also partner with our community service boards as well. One of the things that we are looking at is we're looking at providing more resources and access and opportunities to parents. And there'll be more information to come on that because, in a rural community, being able to find, say, a therapist or mental health services is something that's very challenging.
Let's take a call. We've got Carol from Hampton who has a question about standards of learning. Hi, Carol, you're on the air.
Hi, thank you for this interview, and I'm so impressed by your guest, Dr. Monroe, Doug. And I want to say that as a former teacher, I taught the first 3 years of integration in Selma, Alabama. I taught a year in Florida when it was the first year of SOLs. And I'm wondering, I like all the catchphrases, the alliterative words and so forth. I wonder if Dr. Monroe keeps a notebook or he has a photographic memory, and how does he come by all of those wonderful, short but easy to remember, enthusiastic sayings?
Well, thank you so much, Carol. I appreciate your kind words. They mean a lot. I think there's a, how can I say it? I think there's a potpourri of different things that are going on. One, I was really blessed to have two very visible and very active and influential parents. Again, my mom was a middle school principal. She was a band director. She finished her career at the Virginia Department of Education. My father was a dedicated teacher and elementary principal. And what I saw my parents doing is they looked at education as not a job, but as a lifestyle. I remember over Thanksgiving break and Christmas break going with my father to give cereal out and to give food out to students that lived in communities that may have had some challenges. So the one thing I can say is both of my parents took care of all of their students, all of their teachers, in and outside of the schoolhouse, which is something that I didn't understand as a child, but something that I have continued that legacy as an adult. The other thing is with all of the little, phrases and buzzwords and whatnot, I want to create a culture where students and teachers feel as though they can always succeed. And how do we eat an elephant? We say we eat an elephant one bite at a time. I would tell teachers and students that if you could only get 3 more questions correct on your test or on your state assessment, what would that do not only for your individual success, but think about the impact it would have on the success of your class, the success of your school, the success in your community. So, a lot of what I try to model and put out there is just simply a mindset of I can. Because if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're right. And being a child, a African American male that had an IEP that really struggled, I try to be a walking billboard that you can succeed. And I feel as though, I owe that to my parents for what they put into me, as well as my coaches and my amazing teacher, especially my speech language pathology teacher. And I just want to make sure that I'm the leader and the teacher that all kids needed, and be that person that I needed when I was in school. So I just want to kind of pay that forward to all of the adults, all of the leaders, and all the students that I serve.
Thanks for the call, Carol. We talked about mental health of the students. What about the teachers? Teachers burn out. We hear about that all the time.
Well, one of the things that we do, like I said, is we want to make sure that we put things in place so that teachers are physically well. As we know, teaching is a 24/7 job that's just as much physical as it is emotional. So again, the leaders in our building are providing different health challenges, different opportunities. I know from an HR standpoint, we have employee assistance programs. We try to provide and see and do check-ins on how our staff and how our teachers are doing. And when we notice or when we recognize that someone is not their best self, we make sure that we pair them with the services and the wraparound supports that they need so that they can be their best. One thing we try to do is we try to compliment, we try to celebrate, we try to lift each other up. Because if you're full, then you're able to pour into others. So again, it's a matter of really being proactive and really knowing your team, knowing your staff, and really being able to identify when someone is in need, and making sure that we align all of our services and all of our supports to meet that teacher or that employee where they are so that they can be the best they can be.
So I'm a young person. I'm in college and I'm about to graduate. I've done my student teaching. I'm ready for my first real job. Sell me on Surry County Schools.
Well, one, we're a small school, so we will get to know you personally. Two, we have great technology. We have great facilities, and our students come ready to learn. Three, we have a program for our novice teachers. We have a novice teacher academy. So you will be paired up with a mentor, and you will be a program where we will provide you what we call coaching along the way. So it's not something where it's an I gotcha. It's, look, this is all the things you're doing right, and these are some tools to put in your toolbox to ensure that you're successful. The other thing, as I said, our starting salary is commensurate with other divisions in our area. And the other part is we have great leadership. And if you are interested in coaching or if you have other interests, we actually celebrate those interests and we connect you with others who have similar interests, or we allowed you to lead in your interests to start a club or to have opportunities for our students. So, in Surry, it's really like being a part of the family. And the one thing that I can truly say kind of coming into week 3 is all of the teachers, all of the employees, and all of the kids, they're treated as if we all have the same last name. And that is really powerful.
What do you see for the district 5 years from now?
Well, what I see is growth. I believe, and what I've observed in just 3 weeks, is Surry is a public school with a private school culture, with a culture where we have nowhere to go but up as far as growth. And some of the survey results that I'm getting from students and from teachers is there's this synergy to bring back some of the things from the old. Like I said, I was too tall to play basketball. I was a wrestler. So there's talk about, hey, we would like to, bring the wrestling team back. And talking to some folks during homecoming, we used to have a show choir back in the day, and other things. So what I would look to do with support from our business partners, from our community leaders, from parents and people in the community is for everyone to pour back into Surry and let's see if we can get, the funding and what I'm going to call the human resources to bring some of these great programs back, because I believe that our students are ready. I know that the leadership is ready, and I believe that the county is ready to bring back, some of the things that Surry used to have that really turned Surry from at one time being called Sorry Surry to now being called Super Surry.
We've got less than 90 seconds for the program. What question were you ready to answer that I didn't ask?
Well,
I found one. I found one that stumped him.
Well, here is something that I would like to say. I would like to also commend our Surry County School Board. When you look at the school board, we have 5 ladies on that school board that are 100% dedicated to not only the success and the wellness of students, but the success and wellness of all staff and all employees. And I will tell you right now, I feel as though God has put me where I'm supposed to be. I actually was a finalist as a superintendent 5 other times. And, I had reached out to the board and said, if I don't get the job, please provide me some feedback, because I don't want to be sitting at the table a 6th time. And they basically said, Dr. Monroe, we think that you are our guy. So again, I want to thank the school board. I want to thank all of the employees of Surry County. And I want to thank Surry County for being a great place to work, a great place to learn, and a great place to be.
And we'll leave it there.
Thanks,
you
Doug.
for your time today. Our guest today has been Dr. Herbert Monroe, who gets our thanks. He's the new superintendent of Surry County Schools. You can find information about the Surry County Schools at surryschools.net. And we should mention Surry County Schools are stakeholders in Heretta, which holds the license to the WHRO stations. I'm Doug Boynton. Our program produced today by, can't thank enough, Dr. Barry Graham, our audio engineer, Jordan Christie. Connor Worley answered our phones. Our theme music and original composition by Tom Washburn on the staff. Special thanks to WHRO CEO Bert Schmidt and WHRO Vice President for Content Heather Mazzoni, Senior Director of Audio Content and Strategy Chuck Dowd, and Lynn Jones, Superintendent, Surry County Public Schools Executive Assistant. This and the previous Education Matters programs can be found on demand at WHRO.org. Next program in January with Dr. Allie Bracey, Superintendent of Portsmouth Public Schools. Thank you for joining us. As always, education matters.